Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast featuring The Scoop. So sitting on the stoop today, it's going to be a surprise for y'all, but wait, it's not over. So this individual you see sitting to my left, maybe you're right, meet Leonor Branch. She is rewriting what post-military looks like for women veterans. As an Air Force combat veteran, founder of Sisters in Service in the greater St. Louis area. So if you're in the St. Louis area, STL, look her up. She got some great, amazing programs for you. So she's the driving force and also behind Pivot with Purpose program. She's not just changing lives, she's creating a legacy. And by breaking the isolation, building belonging, and pushing mental health to the forefront for our veteran conversation and definitely for our women veterans. Her personal story goes from trauma, from surviving to serving and reflecting. This is the episode you want to tune in because we have the military effect. And I'm going to let Leonor share a little bit about who she is, because I know y'all like, man, who is this person? Why is she here on The Scoop? Don't worry. Y'all got to get it. But the military effect, we're going to be launching this campaign from Veterans Day of 2025. It's going to be a year long. She is one of 30 contributors to this book, The Military Effect, and it's to highlight veteran transition. And we're starting off with her. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, Leonor, what's the scoop on you? How you doing?
Doing excellent. Thank you so much for that intro. I just love your energy, and I'm hoping that I can feed off of that. And I'm just so excited to be here and to get to know you and share a little bit about what we're doing here for Sisters in Service in Greater St. Louis.
Okay, well, before we start that, who are you? You know, just like I asked, like, what's the scoop of Leonor? Because I want the audience to know that it's just like, you didn't just pop up here, right? Like you served, you did some time, and you did the transition. And he's like, man, I know if this was difficult for me as a woman veteran, I know it has to be difficult for others. So let's hit the rewind button a little bit and let's share that story about how did you get here? Yeah. So
I'm happy to do that. So yes, I'm a proud mom. I'm a veteran. Like you said, I served for 20 years. I'm an advocate for women rediscovering who they are once that uniform comes off. I joined at the age of 19, straight out of Chicago, where I was born and raised. And I only planned on serving for 4 years. But that's how it goes. That's how they get you. And so they sent me to Korea. Well, they didn't send me. I actually volunteered because I was stationed at Dallas, Texas, a small town. So going from a big city to a small town, I just felt like I needed to get out of there. So Korea was, and I had a follow on to Germany. And that's where the adventure really changed everything. When I went in, I was in the administration field, and it was great. I really enjoyed my job. I pretty much grew up in the military. My peers became my family during those 20 years, and most of it, like I mentioned, in the administration field. But I wanted something different, something more people-centered. So then I volunteered to become a recruiter.
nice. So you did the recruiting thing, and now you're going out and you telling people the amazing things that the Air Force have to offer. Like, hey, look, I came from Chicago. You know, my first base. If you want that experience, you want to see the world, come on in, sign up, and let's go for this adventure. So you
Yes,
enjoyed
exactly.
yourself. So you enjoyed yourself. You brought some individuals in, and then you say, you know what, it's time for me to transition now. So you came to that pivotal moment to say, okay, it's time for me to move on. What made you make the choice at that time? Like, okay, I need to transition out and I need to move forward.
Yeah, making that decision did not come easy at all. I had big dreams. I was very ambitious. In the recruiting world, I just loved that side of my career because, again, I was helping people off the streets that I shared my story, that I can see myself in them, and just saying, hey, just give this a shot, and you're going to have a better opportunities for career wise. And so that moment that came when I felt like it was time to hang up the uniform was actually when I was already stationed in Scott Air Force Base and during COVID. During COVID, I is when really everything kind of stopped for me and made me realize that uh, I need to slow down and focus on family because I was a go getter. I mean, the mission was always
Yes,
first.
I know about that.
And as much as I tried not to, because like I said, I'm a mom and I had 3 kids at the time. I I just didn't know how to balance between the mission and having a family. So during COVID, as we were losing people and just how devastating that time was for our country, it really made me realize that, what's most important is the people who are right in front of us. And I played it safe and um, pretty much put in for retirement. And I was ready. I was so ready that I was hitting the retirement button. I think it was like 20 times in the queue. I wasn't even exactly eligible yet. I think I still had a few more days. I miscalculated my at the date as of when I was eligible to push that button. But I could already visualize my life with my kids, being able to see
Mm,
them go to school and picking them up and having warm meals for them, things that I did not have time for. I would come home from serving and I remember still wearing the uniform, not even having time to take the boots fully off and just taking off the blouse and unbuttoning maybe the first button and
right.
getting in there
Turn into
cooking
mom mode.
dinner.
Right, right.
Oh,
Now you
instantly.
transition to mom mode, right? Yeah, like
Yes.
and
Instantly.
so you said I'm sure you and your husband probably sat down at the kitchen table and like, you know what, I wanna pay it forward or give back or pay it forward. I always tell people I pay stuff forward because I can't give nothing back and that's the past. But I know that you established Sisters in Service in the greater St. Louis area. Like what made you say, you know what, I want to start a nonprofit. I want to start Sisters in Service because was it because of your transition or was it because you seen other women veterans that was struggling in the transition phase? What made you start Sisters in Service?
Starting Sisters in Service was really off of my own transition and finding myself to be very lonely. I remember sitting at coffee shops and just thinking to myself, what am I going to do next? Whether it's staying within the recruiting gig or trying something different, pivoting something away from my career in the military, and just all these emotions and just needing someone that I can talk to. I have my husband I can talk to, but it's not the same as when you talk to a fellow sister that understands kind of those things of like being a mom and just the things that we go through in the military. And I knew there was a gap. I knew there wasn't anything like that in my local area. And we have the BFW, we have those type of veteran organizations, but not always women are fully comfortable going into those spaces. And so as we started off by developing a support group and having coffee chats, inviting other women into the conversations. And so we realized that that need and that gap is very evident. And from there I said, I had this calling and this feeling in my chest that I couldn't get rid of. And until I took action, then it started to feel like a relief because I kept thinking about it. I was so obsessed about the possibilities
Right.
and what this could look like. But I knew that it had to take someone to take those steps forward, and I was willing to do it, and here we are.
Right. Cause I know sure you looked around, you're like, man, okay, I'm transitions. You did 2 decades in. So, we're talking about the women veteran that did one tour, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years. And one of the things that you said that we before we came live, you was like, and I was like, hey, I found this quote that you say, when women transition out of the military, the silence can be deafening. Community is the answer to that silence. So I guess that's where you say, you know what, I need to start Sisters in Service because by you just sitting inside that coffee shop and feeling isolated, and if it's not just you, like I'm sure you're like, well, how many other coffee shops have women veterans just sitting there trying to figure it
Mhm.
out?
Exactly. And how do I even know that they're women who have served? It's not like we walk around with, some type of sign in front of our
Right.
forehead, or even a veteran hat, that we're proud to wear. And that's the thing amongst the women veteran population, is that there's so many of us that aren't going around saying that we have served. We are not proudly sharing that and bringing awareness of, we take up a huge population of the women who are currently serving, and it's only growing from here.
Yeah. And that's spot on, because I have a one of my good friends, she's still in, right? It was so she's at 24 years in, and usually when she changed into her civilian attire, the first question people ask is like, "Hey, so is your husband thing? So how long have you been following him around?" And her response was
Mm,
like, "No, I'm serving.
mhm.
I'm the one that's in the
Yeah.
uniform."
Yeah.
So when you see that, and I'm sure you was getting that response as well, and then you say, you know what, I have to make that pivot with purpose. Could you talk about that in your citizen service agree that is gaining momentum? So share with us with that pivot and purpose means for your organization.
Yes, that is our signature program, where we deeply believe that having a program for women who are transitioning, who are in that space where we're receiving all the tangibles, such as building your resume, getting your LinkedIn profile set up. These are all things that we get through TAPS. But then there's the emotional side of things, of that transition, that we're
Right.
not able to fulfill, uh, unless we're building that community and with other sisters. And so, building Pivot with Purpose, we're bringing along women who are in that transition phase. So it could be within the first year that
Mm,
they're transitioning out. And with this pilot program that we just completed, we said, okay, no longer than 5 years from leaving the service. So that gave us a small pool of women, bringing them together because they're recently out. And we want to hear from them. We want to hear, what is it that they need. We
right.
came up with our program, and we're still in the development stages, because even though we've already launched the program, we knew going in that it wasn't going to be perfect. But the more we waited to get it perfect, the longer it was keeping us from moving forward. And there's women out there that need this. And so, going through the program, it started off, or is starting off, as a 4-week program. It's virtual, it's in person. We're hitting financial wellness, and these are different
Nice.
factors that are contributors to veteran suicide rates. And this is according to the Wounded Warrior Women's Initiative report, where the women veteran suicide rate is just, it's extremely high. Isolation being one of them. And so, building this community, we're bringing in complete strangers, and they are getting to know each other. Our biggest thing is building trust
Yes.
through different activities. I mentioned financial wellness. We talked about workspace confidence. We brought in also the VA to talk about the healthcare and how they can quickly enroll by building that trust, building those
Wow.
relationships. And again, that was a 4-week program, and we ended it with a retreat, which is something that I had visualized from 2023. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I just knew that I was going to have women veterans that spoke the same language, and that we were in it together, and that it was going to be about health and wellness. And so we decided to end it in that way. We were able to rent out a lake house, and, the women, it was hilarious, because they were concerned that we were gonna stay in a tent, or maybe
Right.
some of the conditions that we were brought up in the military. Am I sleeping in a cot? Like, what are we doing? And I said, no, with the generous donations that we've received and people that believe in our mission, we were able to rent out an Airbnb home to really
Nice.
build on this sisterhood. And so we were cooking, we did arts and crafts, we went out on the lake and did some kayaking. And there were women who've never kayaked before. So again, one of those things that we motivated each other
Right.
in conquering a fear such as going in the kayak. And it was just such a beautiful thing. At the end, we've built this sisterhood that's not going to end there. It's going to continue through this transition, because there's really no time period of when it ends, it's an ongoing thing, and we know that we have each other's back.
Yeah, cause that's huge. Cause you talked about TAPS for our non-veterans out there, ones who just came across this podcast. So TAPS is a transition assistance program. Basically, it
Mm,
helps veterans or it's active duty personnel transition to veteran status, but it's a very short time. I believe when I went through, it was like 5 days, right? So you get 5 days as information through of
yeah,
a fire hose and you can barely take a sip,
exactly. That's
right?
what I was
So
gonna say.
man, is so intense and it's overwhelming because not only that you're thinking about where I'm gonna live, where you're gonna stay, am I gonna go back home,
Mhm,
am I gonna stay here? Like, do I have to move my
mhm.
stuff? Is my stuff going to storage? I got this payment coming, I got that payment coming. The kids are still in school. Do I move them now? Do I wait? And one of the quotes you have put that I think that's perfect with this with one of your platform with this platform of yours that you're doing, especially Pivot with Purpose. You said purpose doesn't always come neatly packaged after service. Sometimes it's built brick by brick in the community. And this is what you're doing because you said that, like, hey, we have a workshop. Now we're going to go to a retreat to kind of let it all soak in, right? We're not going to give you
Mm,
the information and send you off, right? Like, no, we want to kind of build this community, build this sisterhood because it's not going to end here, right? Is we wanted to keep
exactly.
growing and stuff. So, yeah, can you share a little bit about that? So you have the event Pivot with Purpose. How many women veteran has already came onto that program and I'm sure they're sharing the information as well.
Yes, and thank you so much for asking. For Pivot with Purpose, we started off with a nice, small, intimate group,
Mhm.
and we brought in 7 women veterans. And they are sharing the word, and that's the best type of referrals, honestly, is hearing testimonies of what they think the program looks like. We also invited them to be part of our inner circle to help us with this development of the program, to give them that sense of purpose and giving them also a little bit of the leadership and advocacy for women veterans. And they're all pretty excited about it to know that they are going to be a part of something that's brand new, that's
Yes.
from I mean, we've created everything from the ground up, and learning as we go and knowing that as leaders, our tools that we learn from the military, we can use them in other spaces and developing communities that are very much needed, such as our own. And so building brick by brick, pivot with purpose, that's exactly it, is going through those stages of whether it's, we were just grinding so much in the military, and how to learn to be back home again, and know that situations don't have to be as stressful as we used to make things, or we were kind of ingrained to be that way. And I just love the way that this information is shared amongst the women, the different resources that they have used to become a better version of them. And that's where the conversations happen organically, and supporting one another, whether they want to be a stay-at-home mom, whether they want to be back work in the corporate world, an entrepreneur, is having each other's back once again and knowing that we're here to uplift one another.
Right. So that transition, yeah, I'm thinking, when I was going through your nonprofit and just seeing the amazing things that you're doing for women veterans. I was thinking like, wow, when it was time for my transition, I felt like I was like a fish out of water, right? I was like going back into society, right? Away from the military and veteran community. So I had to relocate, right? Because I just didn't feel that sense of belonging, right? I was just like the odd person out, right? I try to go back home and I wasn't that, right? Because I was gone for so long. Life has moved on with me, not there. And I'm coming back and
Yeah.
trying to reinsert myself at the same moment I left, right? So that's, at a 20-year gap right there. So that building and that mental health, it took a toll on me, right? Because as that transition happened, I was no longer part of my brotherhood, like, security force defenders, like it was that culture I was ingrained in for so long. But how did that affect you when you was transitioning out? Like you was part of the admin world, so I'm sure you've seen a lot of admin stuff come across your desk and then through your TDYs and deployments. And then you was like, man, is you seen that if you was holding back other stuff, other women veterans has been holding back, has been keeping it to themselves. So why is it important for to speak out, right? Because I know I told you, right? I held a lot of stuff back, and I couldn't pack it in anymore. And then my top
Mm,
just exploded, right? So
yeah.
how important is speaking out?
Oh, it's crucial because you never know how your story is going to connect to somebody else's,
Mm,
and they may not be in that stage where they're ready to share. And so one of the things that I have shared is my struggles with alcohol. Started drinking back when I was a teenager, and it increasing while I was in the military to help numb through some of the feelings. And when I got out, it took a little bit for me to realize through my healing process is, man, this isn't who I want to be anymore. Uh, the feelings of being hungover and feeling sick or not being present is just not who I want to be anymore. And making that switch, and it took a dry January challenge for me because
mm,
I knew I wanted to do it. I just didn't know how to. And
right.
I really wasn't around the people that I felt that would support me. So it was really hard. It was really hard at first to be that person because then I feel like I lose all my friends, like, "Oh, she's no fun.
Yeah.
She doesn't like to drink." And that's not the case at all. I've actually learned to rediscover who I am, like me as a whole. And so I share that a lot. Dry January ended up being 30 days, from 30 days to 60 days, and let's see how long this goes. And
Nice.
I'm proud to say that I'm going on 2 years, and I don't miss it.
Congrats. Salute.
I really don't.
Salute. I know
Thank
one of the
you.
things that you shared with others, especially other women, and with everybody, you say you had to break the cycle so another sister wouldn't have to. And that's what I share with you too, right? It's like I was very ashamed when I had to transition out, due to my circumstance, but it took me 3 years after to share my story,
Mhm.
right? Because I seen me and them. I don't know if that makes sense, right? Like I seen the younger me and then what I was going through, and I was like, man, that's exactly how I look because I felt that. So when I
Mhm.
shared my story, it made them open up to like, man, I thought I was dealing with this by
Yes.
myself. I thought it was only me.
Yes. Yes.
So when
No,
you
that's
talk
so
about
true.
breaking your cycle so others wouldn't have to, like, what did you
Mhm.
mean by that? Because that's very powerful that you said that. And
Mhm.
I thank you for sharing, by the way.
Yeah. Well, by that I mean my sober journey, and also it took me a while to share some of the things as I went through counseling because there were some things that happened to me while I was in the military, and I am talking about military sexual trauma. And that's something that I wasn't comfortable with sharing because it was something that I dug deep in a hole and just turned to alcohol to numb some of those emotions and feelings, because that's something that as women that go through it, most of the time we don't even want to share it because one, you don't know if they're going to believe you. Two, you don't want to go through the whole reporting process because at the end of the day, everybody's going to find out about it, and then do you really have people on your side? And so I just didn't want to be that person and just kept it to myself. I probably told two people, and one of them is my sister. And I don't think that that's something that women should feel that they should carry so heavily. And it took years until after I got out the service, until I started my healing journey, and then started going through counseling to realize that it wasn't my fault, that I was blaming myself because I was drinking and I should have had control and I should have been able to avoid it, but it wasn't something that I asked for. And so it just took time for me to come to terms that I it's not my fault.
Right. And that's why you started to say, you know what, I need to start a nonprofit. I need to start an organization. Sisters in Service. You're gonna pivot with purpose. And that comes down to leading the next generation, right? Because as you transition through, is others that's coming behind you, right? And I'm sure you want to make sure that transition will be smoother for them as it was for you, or even smoother, right? You put that ER, right?
100%.
Like if it was smooth, I
Yes.
want it to be smoother for others coming by. So what advice would you give women veterans feeling disconnected and uncertain about their next move?
Oh, wow. The advice that I would even give myself going back
Ah,
is look for your community. I was so desperate leaving the service. I was raising my hand for everything. I was volunteering for the VFW, for the Rotary Club, because I just needed to fill that gap of service. But I wish I would have done it in a slower type of way. Like, I wish I would have taken my time more to help myself figure out what I needed to do to rebuild who I am, because it takes time. And I wish I
ah,
wouldn't have jumped straight into all of that. But at the same time, you don't want to wait too long, because community is crucial, and finding your people, finding your tribe, finding
right,
that sisterhood, because you'll be surprised by getting together, overcoming that fear of like, oh, I don't know anybody there. I was doing that left and right to build this
right.
community. I was showing up to everything, not knowing anyone. But it was Sisters in Service who carried me through, and the women behind me who I kept thinking about, and knowing that all these milestones and all these steps to get
Ah.
there, we had to pull our chair up to the table and break through barriers, and we're still doing that. But can't do that without the team that supports Sisters in Service and everyone else who believes in our mission.
Wow. So how can they find information about Sisters in Service? How can they find information about your nonprofit, about the organization? Definitely about Pivot with Purpose, because every day we have people transition out of the military. I just had a conversation with two transition veterans. They was like, okay, they transitioned and they was literally standing out and like, man, that's it. Like, okay, I got
Yes.
I got my
Yes.
DD-214. What now? Like, how can they like reach out, or get in contact with definitely your organization, because it's that transition of not knowing. Like,
Mhm.
I tell everybody, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and my punch in the mouth was like, okay, here's your 214. Like, all right, well, now what, right? So I'm like, okay, I need to
Yeah.
do this, that,
Right?
and okay, well, this didn't work. Well, let me try this. So how can they get in
Yeah.
contact with Sisters in Service?
Yeah. We are on Facebook, also on LinkedIn and Instagram at SysServe, and that's what we're using for our platforms at the moment. Um, and our biggest dream is to be able to expand into chapters, because we know that the need is out there. So we are creating our model going into 2026. So therefore, shortly thereafter, we can hopefully get some more momentum going and expand it by having women veterans who are interested in taking that lead and seeing the gap in services in their local area. And so just, yeah, working off of Sisters in Service here in greater St. Louis, but we want to have Sisters in Service Chicago, Sisters in Service, somewhere in
Nice,
California, and
nice.
have those small communities where we come together to support one another. Like you said, once you leave, that it's like, that's it. You did your time in service. Thank you for your service. Salute and have a good life. And it's like, whoa, I just invested
Right.
20 years in of wearing the uniform, of structure, and everything I was just so used to a certain way. It Transitioning, that's no joke.
Yeah. And that's why we're doing this campaign. So for our listeners out there, for our viewers out there, right now we're doing what's called the Military Effect Campaign. You can find it on Amazon, and Lenore is one of the contributors of this book. So just share a little bit about this book, because you thought you was gonna get out of here without that. I wasn't gonna let you slide out without talking about the Military Effect book, with you as being one of the contributors of this book, because they're doing a big push for this year, lead to next year. Talk about the goal, the impact, and what we asking people to do just to kind of support the cause around the globe.
Yes, it is a wonderful campaign, and I'm just so honored to be a part of it. Honestly, the way that our organization came up, and through connections, it's just really unbelievable. And it just really proves how important networking and connections really are. So for example, here's Scott who's putting this together. I don't know him, but when he
But
put it
today
out,
they were, yeah, there we go.
yeah,
See, after
yeah,
today, that's how we keep connected.
yes. Um, and so that was put out there. I was tagged on a LinkedIn post and I reached out. We had a one-on-one chat, and then it all led to this. But what I'm really grateful for is to have our mission be shared and bring awareness to the women veteran needs. And that's what the Military Effect campaign is, to support nonprofits, especially startup like ours. Like I mentioned, we have big dreams and we have this passion and a full heart. We are a woman veteran led nonprofit to support women veterans, and we cannot do this without our supporters. And to be able to achieve those big dreams and give those resources to the women, so they have easier transition, this is a phenomenal way to do that by sharing our story in a book and this awesome podcast. So I appreciate this so much for this time and special space for us to connect.
Awesome. Thank you, love. So everybody, check this out. Y'all need to go to Amazon, right? And go type in The Military Effect. You'll see the book come up. It's by Scott Mathorn. Support this movement, The Military Effect. If you purchase a book, it will help go towards the cause, because they're trying to help these nonprofits that's leading in the transition space. Just like here on VET S.O.S. So, Lenore, I don't know if you knew what VET S.O.S stands for. So it's Vets Share Story. And our motto is, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. Grab that VET
Hmm.
S.O.S lifeline. And I tell people,
Love
just
it.
think of it as the transition space, like you're out in the middle of the ocean. It's pitch dark and you see a ship coming up to you with a light, and only thing you see is one of those round little circle things getting tossed over, and you just barely swim into it, but then you grab it, and now you're not drowning no more, right? We're gonna pull you up on the ship. We're gonna get you to shore. You know, Lenore and her team is gonna be there at the shore to give you the blankets, to give you the support. You know, and this is what we do here, because we want to keep building this community, because I tell you, that transition space. Have y'all ever went out, and I love going on cruises, but have you ever went out on a cruise in the nighttime, and you go outside and you look pitch black? And sometimes that's how transition feels. It feels pitch black. I was in the middle of the ocean. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was doggy paddling. I was trying to do everything. But when I seen that lifeline come, I grabbed on so hard and I started just kicking my feet until I got to the boat. Right. So now it's my turn and Lenore's turn and all the other people that's already transitioned and still transition. Throw that life raft, throw that SOS over there to help others come onto the boat. So I thank you. Once again, thank you everybody for listening. And please like, subscribe, and share. And reach out to Lenore and her team, Sisters in Service, Pivot with a Purpose. Grab the book, support the Military Effect. Until next time, everybody, peace.